Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and I think this is number 7 of the Sola Busca. Now, mind you, I'm fully aware that this is not a highly sophisticated exploration of the Sola Busca. I was a teacher for many years, and one of the things that I did to assess students or to see where students were in their learning was to assess them at where they were. So I would present material and just see what they knew about it. And that's exactly how I'm approaching this study with these so far 7 videos of the Sola Busca. I'm approaching it at my own level of understanding without too much reference outside. Now, I have been using Google Translate, and I have been doing some Google searches just to get a rudimentary understanding of some of the characters' names. I've watched a few videos on ancient Rome, and I've purchased this book by Mary Beard on ancient Rome. So I'm now beginning to expand my learning by adding to it. But I fully admit and want to put out there that this is not of the, this is I'm just learning about it, and I'm inviting you to learn along with me. And I would highly encourage you to read the comments that have been made by many of my viewers who know a lot about the Sola Busca, or know more than I do, and they share their own insights and some of their conversation below in the comments sections of all these videos have been very insightful. And I don't mention it enough, but I should indicate that always read my descriptive area, because sometimes I make a faux pas and I'll correct it down there, but also I'll mention something that I forgot to mention, so the descriptive area is always really important. And before I get started with this number 7 video, I do want to thank all of you who commented on my Witchmas video. I'm touched. I really am. I put it out there for my descendants, as I mentioned in the video. And but I also figured that there might be some of you who might be interested in it. Now, let me start by saying that Witchmas is usually celebrated by most people in the community around Christmas, and they replace it with Christmas. They say, Merry Witchmas. I say, Happy Witchmas. But for us, my daughter and I hadn't even known about it. I didn't even know Witchmas existed. I didn't have any clue. And as I mentioned in that video, in 2019, on September 22nd, I had a dream, and I was told that it was Witchmas. And you'll see in the video that I did, I'm not going to relive the whole thing here, but in my dream, it was the September 22nd date was the important date. So that's why we decided to celebrate Witchmas on that particular date. And in the years since, I think there has been a movie about Witchmas, and most people celebrate it on Christmas. But for us, we're the oddballs. We don't celebrate it on that day. But at any rate, I digress. So this is part 7 of the Sola Busca. And what I'm doing with this video is I'm continuing what I did in video 6, which is to look at the suits to see if there's a progression in each of the suits by looking at the individual characters and see how they relate to one another. Now, in the previous videos, I've discussed at length my impressions of what was on the cards, and now I'm just really looking at the progression. Now, I have another T-shirt. Actually, this is a sweatshirt for $16.92, except it's not red, it's orange. And it's a chilly day, and it's getting to be toward the holiday season of, Halloween. And so someone purchased this sweatshirt for me, so I'm wearing it, At any rate, let me flip the camera. Oh, and before I switch the camera, I want to mention that this year, my daughter and I were not able to celebrate Witchmas together because she had to work later, in the afternoon. Like, she had to go into work like at 4, so she wouldn't have had time to come out here with her daughter. But we did celebrate it separately, but together, and we did, communication with one another all day long and sent photographs. And I was expecting to be able to celebrate the day with my daughter-in-law and my eldest granddaughter, but at the last minute, something came up for them and they weren't able to do it. So I celebrated on my own, but I celebrated with in union with my daughter, who was at another location. But that's it. Okay, now I'm flipping the camera. Okay, doke. So we have the Ace of Batons. Now, for all the aces, it seems like Pootie, there's usually always 2 or 3 Pootie represented. And here we have the MS again, which I thought was an indicator of perhaps the artist who created the deck, whose name is, his initials are MS. But some people say that it was the consigliere of the family, whose initials are represented by MS, so I don't know which it is. But we have a shield, a helmet, an armor plate, a breastplate. And the number 2 card is the character that I have described a few times, that he's kind of stupid looking, with a small member but big cojones. And he's naked. And so it's like brawn rather than brain, perhaps. Then the next card is very reminiscent of the Three of Cups, as you recall. Now, I don't think this guy is this guy. They don't look the same. His hair is gray. This guy is younger. This guy looks mean. Not sure why he's looking at this guy. So this card is the first card giving us a sense of moving in this direction, and it's followed by this card. This guy's got some kind of gourd, and he seems like he's haphazardly carrying these batons that can very easily slip from how he's carrying them. It's like a very non-secure method of carrying these. Okay. Okay, now here for the 6. And we see often, individuals, men, in various stages of disarray. Like here, okay, maybe there's no undergarments, we can't tell. But in more than a few, we see a reference that they've lost their undergarments. So I don't know what that's a reference to. It could be, some type of insult or something. I don't know. And in place of a gourd, now he's carrying a lantern. And these things being carried haphazardly are now neatly done, neatly contained, a lot more neatly, less precarious. And let's see, number 7. Now, could this be the same guy? I don't think so, because they have 2 different hairlines, right? Their hairline is not the same. So it's not a continuum with the same fella. Plus their clothings are different. However, did he pass this bundle on to this guy? Because the bundle seems to be secured in the same manner with a purple, with a purple ribbon. But there's no indication of the lantern now either. And now he seems to be putting them in the ground. So it's like he's staking them, putting them in the ground. And so they've gone from the ground to being in a bucket, and again, piercing through the bottom of the bucket, which seems to contain a poinsettia plant. So strange. So the number 9 card. So then now they were gathered back up again by somebody else who's nude, going through water, and then putting them in another container. And then we have a reference to, I'm sure it's somebody's in particular, but I'd have to research that. I mean, I don't know if it's one of the Caesars. And now we're in the court cards with the page. Who's moving forward with the baton. He also has a sword, and he has the aforementioned tasseled or little pouch that I've made reference to. Also in the background, we have mounds, which may or may not have been translated as pyramids when Pamela Coleman Smith, did some of the cards where she had references to pyramids in the background. Maybe this was an inspiration. I don't know. So we have and I mean, I don't know if it doesn't seem to be the same fella. They don't look the same. They could be, but generally the pages or the valet or the knaves assisted the knights, who in turn assisted the king and queen. But perhaps he became a knight. I don't know. Not what's in the background. More mounds. More broken trees, fractured trees. I don't know if this is the same young man who became a knight, or if he is just the knave that's assisting the knight. His name is Paulino. So is it a reference to Apollo? Or was it the name of somebody? I have to learn who all the infamous cast of characters are. Now remember, this still was created, in the early Renaissance, right? I mean, this was 1491. Michelangelo Buonarroti was only about like 15 or 16 years old when this deck was created. So it was Michelangelo fame, right? So I wonder if this deck is more influenced by the Renaissance and their perception of ancient Rome, which may have been more informed about ancient Rome than we are. But it seems as though, from what I've read in my book over here, is that there's a lot of information written about ancient Rome by the people who lived in ancient Rome. It seems that they left a lot of documentary about themselves. So I don't know if it was all available to them at this time, or how much of it was discovered later. I don't know. I kind of go off on a tangent. At any rate, okay, so this knight doesn't look like he's prepared for battle. Maybe it looks like he's delivering a message. Maybe he had to. Well, it's a reference to Apollo, I guess, who's dashing. Okay, so maybe this is a sense that he got a message in the middle of the night and he's like not fully dressed or whatever, and he's rushing to give information to the queen, who in turn relays the message to the king, who is facing her. They do have a dialogue between them, a visual dialogue between them. Levio Platur, and her name is Pallas. So I wonder if, this is not a continuum here, at least. A hurried knight in clothing that's hurried, he's not dressed, but he's got a message to relay to the queen, who relays the information to the king. I'd be interested to know if that's what's happening. I don't know. Okay, and the last suit that we're looking at to see if there's any kind of story. And there's so many ways to look at these cards. There's just so many ways to look at these cards. And this is just one. And I appreciate any of you who might be interested in just learning with me. Okay, here we have the Ace of Discs. And serve, I don't know what this means, sheeper. I don't know. I'll have to look those words up. I should have looked it up before I started this video. Now, I think, I'm not positive, but I think I've read, or maybe I don't know where I heard this information from, so I can't give credit, but I think the M may have been a reference to the 1000th year that Venice had been in existence. So not only is it referencing maybe ancient Rome, this deck, but it's also commemorating Venice, and Venice itself may have had a landmark thing happen.
I brought the plants in.
I apologize. My husband interrupted me just for a second, and I lost my train of thought. But hopefully, I'll get it again. Oh, but there was, perhaps it's a celebration of something about Venice, right? Maybe the M stands for, I think that's 1,000, right? So maybe it's like the 1000th anniversary of Venice or something like that. So here we have the Two of Discs. And, the two discs, if they're referencing coins, I don't know. One is commemorating a particular person who may have accomplished something, and then the other one looks like the everyday man, or maybe he was a priest or a advisor or poet or and then we have the three, and again, like what we've seen in the other suits, after we get past two, then it starts to look like there's a collection, a effort to collect these things in some kind of container. And I believe I spoke about this woman at length, being an opulent woman, collecting these things. Her vessel is different than this vessel. Now, this person is very interesting to me. He's suited with animal, like bird wings. Very interesting. But he isn't given a name. In previous videos, when I looked at these cards individually, I made an indication that this was very similar to the Eight of, I think it was the Eight of Coins or the Pentacles of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But here I think it's the sixth card. So what's the transition? Like, what's the story here? Is there a connection? I think I remember in reading one of my viewers' comments that this suit in particular does show an alchemical progression, like something that would have been stood from an alchemist's point of view, which is lost on me. But perhaps for those of you who are interested in alchemy or understand it, can see much more clearly than I do. Excuse me. As I've mentioned before, I had COVID in July or August, and it's still with me. I'm not still COVID positive, but I'm still coughing. But at any rate, I don't know if there's like a continuum with the discs in an alchemical sense. Okay, so from here, where he's working on creating these things. It looks like, I don't know. Well, then we have a collection, and again, the bird. So is this bird related to this image here? Especially if there's an alchemical understanding about what's going on. Maybe these two are related somehow. Then from here, with the 7, we progress to the 8. We have a reference to death, skull and crossbones, danger. Maybe it's not death so much, but like danger, risk of death. Maybe getting too close to something that's dangerous. Then we have the 9. Again, like a barbecue pit, right? And it's being fueled by a human being who's a flame. And then I spoke at length about this maybe being things that are stored away, things that are stored away, and then years later somebody discovers this chest with the family heirlooms or whatever. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, or if it's how it relates to this. You forged human toil or human blood, sweat, and tears, and then these precious things are created or realized, and then they're put in a chest. I don't know. You have some kind of dog or something. I don't know. Okay, now how do I have? Oh, what did I have? Oh, I made a mistake somewhere. Oh, no. So here we have the page with a bird, with 2 birds, a bird in hand, a bird on the perch. He's facing the night. Who is keenly focused on something. Is he focused on something that's ahead of him? In this suit? I don't know. Perhaps he's in a hurry. Like in the other suit that I just discussed, the knight looked like he was hurriedly dashing toward the queen and king to relay a message that maybe he got in the middle of the night. But here, this knight looks like he's in a hurry to relay a message from either the queen and king. Although these two don't seem to be at all interacting with him at all. And they're not even really interacting with one another. If he received a message from the queen, once she gave him the message, if that's the case, she's now only really interested in her own vanity. She's like, primping herself. Is she primping herself for her king? I don't know. Pax, peace. Filippo. So now moving forward, let me flip the camera. Moving forward, I probably won't be releasing these as frequently now because I probably won't be releasing anything until I do more research, above and beyond just my initial looking at the cards and trying to see them for what I understand. And at this stage, of course, now I have to dig a little deeper. So the videos probably won't be as frequent because it may be, it may take me a while, and I might just create shorts, like 1-minute shorts saying, oh, look what I just discovered. But in any event, no matter what I discover, beyond today, I'll include all of them in a Sola Busca playlist. So if you're interested in see what I'm up to and you missed one of my videos or whatever, go to the Sola Busca playlist. And anything that I've done regarding my journey in trying to learn about the Sola Busca will be in that playlist. Until next time, friends, peace. Stay well, be kind, and do no harm.